Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I make videos about witchcraft, paganism, spirituality, and other related topics, so feel free to hit subscribe if that sounds like something interesting to you. So today I'm doing my first ever reaction video, so I'm super excited about that. I'm going to be reacting to the video I Learned Witchcraft from Real Witches by Skylife. I've got some snacks and I've got some tea. So let's get right into it. So I want to start this video off by saying a lot of these I Learned Witchcraft for a day or I learned, those kinds of videos tend to be a little bit, I tend to not have high hopes for them because most of the ones I've seen have been a bit demeaning and a bit kind of mocking. But let's see what this video is because that might not be the case here. So let's take a look.
I pierce the skin to take my woes, my fears and sorrows. Persephone, goddess of the underworld, take our pain, our suffering, and descend into the underworld.
My purpose is to lift women up, and witchcraft is a way to do that.
The witch is the rebel, the fighter.
Dylan! Dylan is great. I love Dylan.
On the one hand, I'm super excited to learn about witchcraft and really seek to understand it and to re-explore this part of my childhood curiosity that I somehow pushed away. And on the other hand, I am terrified because I don't know if dark magic is going to be going on, if curses...
So, dark magic isn't necessarily bad. You could say shadow work is dark magic, right? You could say anything kind of on the dark moon, anything introspective is dark magic. Working with Hecate, who is a dark goddess, can be seen as dark magic, but that doesn't mean it's evil. In fact, working with Hecate and other kind of darker goddesses can have a great amount of benefits to it. You know what I mean? So, but I can understand why, because in popular culture, the idea that dark equals evil is pushed all the time. I mean, most movies, you see the characters wearing black or the darker kind of characters are evil when that's not really the case in real life. And I feel like not only does this push the stigma against witchcraft, it also pushes a stigma against alternative people. For example, goths. A lot of people think goth is based around evil when it's not at all. I mean, if you want to get into the specifics, it's a music-based subculture, but I digress. So, dark does not necessarily mean evil.
are going to be involved. I don't know what to expect. I don't know these witches. What am I getting myself into? If you Google the word witch, you'll find this definition: a woman thought to have magic powers, especially evil ones, popularly depicted as wearing a black cloak and pointed hat and flying on a broomstick. Or this second definition, an ugly or unpleasant woman. But based on how long witchcraft has been around, this
Now those are the kind of popular culture definitions, but I believe they have added a modern definition, but I could be wrong. I know there's a modern context definition for witchcraft. Yeah, no, they haven't for witch, but they have for witchcraft, where if you search up witchcraft definition, there's a few definitions. One of them says, in a modern context, religious practice involving magic and affinity with nature, usually within a pagan tradition. But yeah, when you do search up witch, that is correct. It comes up with those, the evil woman or whatever stereotype.
definition seems to be quite limited and primarily based on Hollywood's interpretation of the witch.
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog too.
Popular Halloween costume and central archetype in many stories, the spiritual practice of witchcraft is one with a rich history, with many trials and tribulations along the way. In recent years, witchcraft has experienced a surge in popularity with the development of the New Age witch. Bloggers, YouTubers, and Instagram influencers now happily show off their altars, crystals, tarot card spreads, and musings on the latest moon phase. But what's behind the stereotype and stigma of the witch? That's what I wanted to find out. So I went to meet some real witches.
I like how she kind of differentiates between the Hollywood stereotype and real witches.
including 2 New Age feminist witches and a professional male witch with a deep knowledge of this ancient practice to learn the truth about witchcraft.
I also really like that she included a male witch because I think it's really important that we emphasize the fact that witch is a gender-neutral term, and anyone can be a witch regardless of whether you're male, female, non-binary, or any other gender. It doesn't matter.
Having long pointy nails is pretty irrelevant to actually being a witch. I just use this as an excuse to get some. I've always wanted to do this. Tap, 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 tap my pointy nails. I have honestly no idea what this entails. I have no idea what to expect. I don't know these people. I've only communicated with them over text and calls. So these could be witches that are practicing dark magic and I'm gonna be sacrificed or something. I don't know.
Witches don't do human sacrifices. Now, there are religions where there are animal sacrifices, and that's okay. Like there are Abrahamic religions where there are animal sacrifices and no one says anything, but as soon as it's paganism or something, see, confirmation that they're evil. Like, but yeah, human sacrifices in witchcraft aren't a thing, and animal sacrifice is more so tied to religion rather than witchcraft.
Hello! Nice to meet you.
My journey began with going to see a professional witch named Mystic Dylan, who's been practicing witchcraft for 20 years now. This is what the home of a witch looks like.
Right?
You're ready for Halloween.
Absolutely.
This is your season. You have a broom!
Yes, and the bristles up to keep the spirits away.
Thing with the broom.
Yeah.
Why is that just the biggest thing that people know witches for, like riding on a broom? It's a long story.
Not really. It's more an interesting story. So you would use psychotropic drugs or herbs. You would make a salve out of it, and you would rub it on the end of the broom, and you would put the broom inside of you, and you would fly. So not necessarily riding the broom as in flying, but tripping out.
Wait, what?
Yeah, for real.
Inside?
Inside. You weren't expecting that, were you?
No!
A lot of people weren't.
We're gonna learn a lot today.
Yeah. So I'm Mystic Dylan, and I am a professional witch. My path to witchcraft started at an early age with my love of ancient Egypt and ancient history. All these ancient cultures, they all had this idea or belief in this magic or the supernatural. I started reading about witchcraft, and when I found out that people actually practice witchcraft, it really piqued my interest. It just really resonated with me. These practices, this belief system, all these.
That's so cool. Mine also started with mythology. I had interest in Greek mythology, Egyptian, especially Greek though. Yeah, and the Rick Riordan books like Percy Jackson, and then there was the Greek or the Egyptian series that I really liked. I forgot what they were all called, but I read like all of his books because I loved mythology. And then I had all these mythology books from different cultures. So I feel like mythology a lot of the time is kind of a gateway.
Some resonated with me. A large part of it is honoring our ancestors and honoring the spirits of the earth and earth itself. I've always had a strong connection with nature, so I think it was that too.
One of the first questions I had for Dylan was why he calls himself a witch as a male instead of a wizard, which is what I thought the male version of a witch was.
So wizard is actually very fairy tale. I'm sure you've also heard too the word warlock. There are male witches who call themselves warlock. Witch in itself, it's a word that a lot of people are reclaiming, and witch, the root word is wise one. It doesn't necessarily have a gender to it. So there are male.
I know he's about to explain this, but yeah, witch is gender neutral. Anyone who practices witchcraft can call themselves a witch. Wizard is more a fantasy term.
Is our female witches.
I'm a witch in training today.
Witch in training.
With Mystic Dylan.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
There we go.
She seems really genuine so far, which I really enjoy, because it's really refreshing compared to a lot of these I learned witchcraft where they're like, oh, that's weird. Oh, witchcraft? It's really annoying when they do that because you know that it just feels disrespectful. But this lady is so genuine and nice and respectful, and I'm really enjoying that.
So excited.
There we go.
I'm a little bit nervous overall because I have never done anything like this before.
And there are a lot of misconceptions. The biggest misconception about witchcraft, the list goes on and on, but I would say the one that comes to mind is that we worship the devil, which is not true.
Witchcraft isn't a religion. It is a spiritual practice. You can be Christian, you can be pagan, you can be Buddhist, you can be Hindu. Literally any religion you can practice. So the idea that witches worship the devil is completely untrue. Unless you want to. If that's your religion, you know, like I said, it has nothing, it's not a religion, it's a practice.
The devil is a Judeo-Christian concept. Now, are there witches who are satanic? Absolutely, but witchcraft is a practice.
Witchcraft in its many forms have evolved over the years throughout several cultures. There's brujeria and santeria from Latin America, Haitian voodoo, West African hoodoo, and many more.
Obviously, the moment someone talks about like bones,
Or a voodoo doll
or
sitting
voodoo
over
doll,
there,
they
casually on the
automatically think
counter.
black magic. The truth is that magic has no color. And actually, the word black magic has a lot of racial connotations to it.
I've even heard someone say that white people can't practice black magic or baneful magic, which is incredibly racist, white supremacist rhetoric. Please stay away from that type of rhetoric. And that's also why I refer to it as baneful magic rather than black magic, because like Dylan said, magic has no color and it shouldn't be classified into such rigid classifications, because that's just not how it works.
For me, I consider myself an eclectic witch. I like to take bits and pieces from different cultures, and I call it cultural borrowing, not cultural appropriation. I think the difference is that if you acknowledge these spiritual beliefs, if you have a passion for them, there's no harm in that. Where the harm comes in cultural appropriation is when you are essentially, it's ignorance,
kind of
or making a profit out of it
exploitation.
or exploiting it. So I practice hoodoo.
I agree. It's important to respect and research the origins and know them. And, you know, we gotta understand that there's cultural appreciation or borrowing and then appropriation. Like Dylan said, so for example, if you are just smoke cleansing and you're calling it smudging, that's the incorrect term, and that would be appropriation. But if you have aspects of your practice that are from different cultures and you acknowledge where they come from and you research the cultural context, then that could be appreciation, as long as it's not a closed practice that you'd have to be initiated into, if that makes sense, or born into.
A lot of people are like, oh, well, you know, that is African and there are all these things and you can't do that because you're white. And I was taught by someone, you know, I really sought out this practice and I studied a lot.
Right, as far as I know with hoodoo, that you're supposed to learn from someone within the practice. So appropriation would be if you just called yourself a hoodoo practitioner without learning from someone in the practice.
Orleans to kind of gain permission and gain access to these ideas and to this level. I have a passion for those practices. I'm also Cherokee, so I incorporate some of those spiritual elements.
Finally, it was time to practice some magic. First, Mystic Dylan showed me how to make a gree-gree bag, a voodoo practice using specific herbs to set a specific intention.
So the first word we're going to use is very popular. It's called mugwort.
Of course,
I love mugwort. Don't ingest it if you're pregnant or you know, any of that. But it's one of my favorite herbs to work with as well. It's such a wonderful herb in my opinion. And I think I've mentioned it in I believe it was my tea magic video.
mugwort.
Mugwort.
Everyone knows mugwort.
Right?
They use that in Harry Potter, right?
Do they really?
I feel like that word is a Harry Potter word.
I guess.
J.K. Rowling must have just taken all of her words from...
Yeah, every time I talk about mugwort, I remember my boyfriend said that too, where it sounds like a Harry Potter word, which it kind of is.
Just taken all of her words from witchcraft.
I'm sure. I know that they use mandrake, and mandrake is also
Yes.
used in witchcraft.
Next, we added wormwood and St. John's wort to make a gree-gree bag designed to help promote psychic intuition.
By the power of 3, I awaken this gree-gree bag, so mote it be. And then you would put this under your pillow, and that would help promote dreams.
I've been wanting to dream more.
And boom.
And have more lucid dreams.
Yeah, there we go.
You know, I might try that because I haven't been dreaming as much lately.
And actually drinking mugwort tea or smoking mugwort tea, that helps with lucid dreaming too.
Really?
The general origin of modern-day witchcraft in the Western world, specifically Wicca, is mainly derived.
Wicca and witchcraft aren't the same though. So that's not really the origin of witchcraft in the Western world. Witchcraft, like folk magic traditions, have been around since before Wicca and traditional magic. And kind of obviously the pagan traditions.
Mainly derived from Celtic paganism, coming from the Isles of ancient Great Britain.
I think also a lot of people think that witchcraft is this like religion. Wicca is a religion, and Wicca is a closed religion, and they practice witchcraft, but witchcraft in itself is a practice. Wiccans call them...
Yeah, a lot of Wicca is derived from Celtic paganism. It's also important to note, however, that it was created in the 50s. So Wicca isn't an ancient tradition, however, Celtic paganism is.
Themselves witches, and they practice witchcraft within their religion. All Wiccans are witches, but not all witches are Wiccan. Wicca came about in the late 50s, 60s by Gerald Gardner, and he essentially took these Celtic practices, formed them around the Wheel of the Year, and formed a religious practice around that.
That is the explanation we needed, because a lot of the time, I know it's always well-meaning people, but when I say I practice witchcraft, they automatically assume I'm a Wiccan, when that's not necessarily the case. Not anymore. I used to be a Wiccan though.
I believe, first and foremost, as long as you harm none, do what you will. So that's part of the Wiccan weed. Even though I'm not a Wiccan, I do take on that aspect of that phrase because it is important to me.
The widespread persecution of witches began in the 1400s with the European witch trials. At the end of the 14th century, the plague known as the Black Death killed nearly 1/3 of the population. Survivors strived to find an explanation, and many pointed their fingers at witches, labeling single women or those who held knowledge of ancient folklore as working for Satan.
I also think that with the rise of Christianity, with Christianization, they viewed women with spiritual power and spiritual knowledge as a threat. Because while I have nothing against, Christians or anything, Christianity is a patriarchal religion, right? That might be slowly changing now with progressive Christianity and stuff like that, but especially at the time, women with spiritual power posed a threat to Christianity, and it was dangerous to them, to their kind of worldview. But not only women were persecuted, though, there are women and men. Men were often accused of being necromancers, and that doesn't mean raising the dead, it means communicating with the dead. They're often believed to use demonic forces. So men and women were persecuted, but around the Salem witch trials, it was pretty much exclusively women.
Hundreds were burned to death and tortured during this time. After the Puritans settled in Massachusetts Bay Colony around 1630, the community would suffer years of hardship to find their way in the New World, including failure of crops, famine, war, a smallpox epidemic, and a mini ice age. Tensions ran high.
People tend to want to blame things on someone else. That's where a lot of bigotry comes from and a lot of ignorance, where they'll blame terrorism on all Muslims, even though that it's ridiculously untrue. Or they'll blame certain things on certain groups of people, and that inevitably leads to oppression, and it inevitably leads to something bad, especially when that group is, logically they have not oppressed the people that are accusing them, if that makes sense. But this group is oppressing them because they find a scapegoat.
And the community sought answers. January of 1692 marked the beginning of the famous Salem witch trials. People fear that the devil is loose in Salem and is controlling a secret coven of witches to cause harm. With this, the hysteria heightens and hundreds of people are accused, arrested, and thrown in jail. By September 1692, just 9 months later, 19 people have been executed by hanging, 1 man was pressed to death, and several others died in prison.
If you are a practicing witch today, which I think is so amazing, you have survived over 6,000 years of stigma, religious persecution, war, so the witch will always be there.
Next, Dylan showed me the art of bone throwing, a type of divination practice. So what is bone throwing that we're gonna do?
So bone throwing, it's also known as claromancy, the art of throwing lots. This is more a very New Orleans tradition. And essentially the idea is that every bone has an association. You would ask a question, you would shake, you would throw the bones, and depending on where they land, that reveals your answer.
Should we try it?
Let's do it. Do you have a question?
I wanna ask about money. I just want to know when the money is coming.
What you're gonna do, you're gonna hold the shell, you're gonna blow,
Okay.
you're gonna shake, and then you'll throw. And throw. Good! That's a good throw. First and foremost, you see how this
I love the way she was shaking it. That was...
jawbone is facing you?
Yeah.
You can't withhold yourself. You may need to conflict, or you may need to fight in order to achieve what you want. You're afraid to be selfish.
Yeah.
And that's something that you need to do in order to succeed.
That was
I love the interaction going on here. YouTubers and journalists who do these types of videos, please take notes. Like, I honestly commend Skylife for this, because this is one of the few of these types of videos that I've seen that the person interviewing or learning from the witch has been so respectful, and I love her for that.
weirdly so accurate to how I feel
Oh.
currently and what's going on, because I am starting to be more predatory in the best way,
Yeah.
I think, with just like going after things
Absolutely.
and owning my own worth and value and not being afraid to say it.
For you, it's wonderful to be grateful for what you have, but it's also okay to want more. The reason why witchcraft is so integral to my life is because these practices are more than 6,000 years old, and I have such pride in that. I feel like I'm carrying the torch of my ancestors.
After learning so much from Dylan about the history of witchcraft and its uses in different cultures around the world, I also wanted to talk to some New Age witches.
I wonder what I'm going to think about this, because I have kind of mixed feelings about New Age spirituality and New Age witchcraft. So let's see.
Super pumped because right now I am on my way to go meet up with the Basic Witches. The Basic Witches are these two really cute millennial girls who have a podcast called The Basic Witches, where they talk about witchcraft, and they have on real pro witches that they interview, and they kind of take witchcraft and put a modern New Age spin on it. I would categorize the Basic Witches as sort of LA's Instagram witches. But to me, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I think they're just using these practices of witchcraft and evolving it in a way that speaks to a younger audience and is interesting to people.
Welcome.
Smells so good in here.
It's pretty cool that they live together. It's pretty cool.
Oh, good. We did Palo Santo and Sage.
Okay, good.
If y'all know the whole, I don't know if it was white sage, but I guess it depends where they sourced it.
Okay, good.
Yes.
We all saged up. Your house is amazing.
Thank you.
I love it.
Hey, I'm Leah Knauer,
And I'm Rachel LaForest.
and we are
the Basic Witches.
I think to be a basic witch is to be embracing your spirituality and divine feminine.
Witchcraft is totally a part of the feminist movement in that it is about accepting femininity, the divine feminine, and embracing it, not shaming any desires, not having to apologize for existing.
I think that's great, but I don't think you can really define witchcraft as inherently feminine. You know, I think they're probably saying that that's their form of witchcraft, is embracing your divine feminine, but don't let that make you think that you have to, that your craft has to be feminine based or womb centric or anything like that. Because like I said, witchcraft is for everyone, and the divine masculine, the divine feminine are concepts that they don't necessarily have to be tied to gender.
and wanting, all these same ideals as feminism.
Witchcraft has really become a lifestyle, I think, for both of us.
One way I use witchcraft practically is having these little physical reminders of good mental health practices. A crystal, whether I believe it does something or not, is there for me to remind me like, okay, I'm gonna set this on my yoga mat and remember an intention that's gonna help me feel better.
That's a good way of doing it. Like I like to use not use anxiety. I like to use amethyst as a way to as a reminder to breathe and kind of calm myself, if that makes sense. Or rose quartz, you can place it in your bathroom for self-love in front of your mirror. So I like that idea of using witchcraft or using crystals or symbology as a reminder to take care of yourself.
What do you do with the voodoo doll?
The white pin is things that I want to bring in, things I want to manifest, positive things. And then the black is things I want to release. So like doubt, fear. I ding this bowl.
Generally, I'd call them poppets, and poppets are existent in multiple cultures all around the world. They can be used for healing as well as, they can be used for tons of multiple things because in popular culture, it's often demonized, and I think that voodoo and other African religions tend to be demonized due to racism. So it's important to note that voodoo is not evil at all. It's actually a beautiful religion. And I'll link an interview below that kind of has a lot of insight on voodoo if you'd like to check it out in the description. But yeah, those are also called poppets.
That tells me to speak my truth, and I use essential oils. I mean, I am a stereotype, but it's more than that. Yeah. It's also acknowledging darkness and the truth.
Vulnerability, going towards fear to find opportunity and magic. It's genuine for us. Like we take it to heart. We're genuine in the way that we use these things. We're not just dancing around flippantly or to be cute on Instagram. It actually is a practice.
Yeah. It also allows us personally to embrace not giving a fuck and just like doing what we want. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm a witch. What are you gonna do?
For me, what's underneath the stereotype?
I mean, yeah, I do like the fact that witchcraft isn't a religion and therefore isn't dogmatic, so you can do whatever you want.
Of, yes, I have wings on my back and I burned sage before we started rolling this. What's behind all that is that my absolute sole purpose is to help women.
We're putting ourselves out there and the return is so great when we meet people that do connect with it and that like it's changed their lives.
Or saved their lives.
Yeah. The purpose is bigger than us and bigger than the podcast.
Leah and Rachel shared a spell with me for manifesting money. It was during this experience when it started to click that witchcraft is very much just about setting clear intentions through some kind of physical representation, and using ceremony or ritual to call into your life that which you desire. After feeling like I had gained a pretty good understanding of witchcraft and its...
That's a good definition of it. A lot of symbolism and then intention is really important.
Its many uses, I was ready to experience a real witch ritual. Dylan is the high priest for a local coven of witches and invited me to experience a ritual for Samhain, the witch's new year, aka Halloween.
Samhain is at liminal time, the time when the veil is thinnest between this world and the next. It is a holiday of new beginnings, also known as the Witch's New Year. So in this space, we are going to honor Persephone, the goddess of spring, who is now descending to join her husband Hades in the underworld. As she descends into the underworld, she will also take our pain and grief that we've been through this year. She takes all that pain down with her, so we feel lighter in the coming new year.
So we send our pain to Persephone.
Precisely. Witchcraft does involve nature, so we incorporate the elements of
I like that. I like that a lot.
Nature into our spell work. Even our deities correlate with nature, so Persephone does represent literally the duality between spring and winter.
Let's begin.
Let's begin. We close the circle in Persephone's name. Gods above, gods below, we honor the spirits and the ancestors we used to know. We pierce the skin and insert our woes, our sorrows, and our fear.
We pierce the skin.
We pierce the skin to insert our woes, sorrows, and fears.
Persephone, goddess of the underworld, goddess of the underground, I feel your presence, you are here and abound. As you descend into the world below, we ask that you take our pain, strife, and woe. We honor you in this sacred place, in the sacred grove, in the liminal place between this world and the next. We usher you in and we usher you down. We usher you down into the realm of spirits and ask that you take our pain, our woe, our strife, and our grief. As above, so below, we honor the spirits and those we used to know. Blessed be, so mote it be.
Blessed be, so mote it be.
Wow. That was not what I was expecting.
What were you expecting?
I was expecting it to be so much more dark and scary. This is just...
Imagine though, honestly, witchcraft is not that scary at all. It's nothing like what you would expect if you're not familiar with it. It's just a spiritual practice.
a very lovely ritual.
Yeah.
It's all about intention.
Yeah.
It's really all about intention.
Yeah, I already feel lighter, you know?
Right? That's the idea.
This is why you guys do this.
Yeah.
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 As someone who loves history and someone who has studied about witchcraft, I've taken...
I did my first group ritual not too long ago. It was over Zoom, of course, because of the pandemic, but I definitely felt lighter afterwards. I mean, I do tend to feel lighter a lot after solitary witchcraft as well, but something about doing magic with a group is just... there's something amazing about it.
On this duty of dispelling that stigma and trying to break that stereotype.
Even though I had some fears along the way, I finally feel like my inner child got a taste of the curiosity I once deprived myself of. This experience has definitely inspired me to incorporate some witchcraft practices into my everyday life and believe in magic just a little bit more.
I've seen how witchcraft works for people and helps people, and it's very healing and very therapeutic. And you know, people have said, well, what if witchcraft is just, you know, it doesn't work? What if it's just a placebo effect? Well, then it's a magical placebo effect.
I want to thank you so much for watching, and remember, you have the power to
Even if it is, if it works for you, that's what matters. You know what I mean? Because there are a lot of people who say, oh, well, it's stupid, you know, it doesn't work, or if it's a placebo, why would you do it? That's dumb. When if it works for you, it works. You know, if it's therapeutic, if it makes you happy, and it works for you, that's really what matters, in my opinion.
thrive. You have the power to live your best life ever.
I really enjoyed this video. I was pleasantly surprised because a lot of the time when I see these, like I said earlier, they can be a little condescending. But Skylife, she was so respectful, so nice. I really like her. Actually, I'm gonna subscribe. Let me subscribe to her real quick because I really enjoyed how respectful and nice she was and how she asked questions and didn't assume. She and whatever assumptions or expectations she had, she laid it out and she said, you know, I'm a little scared, and that's fine. But I like that she came out of it more understanding and that she was trying to understand witchcraft rather than be combative or super skeptical about it. And I really enjoy that. Overall, I liked that she had a male witch on there as well as the female witches, because a lot of the time I feel like younger women, younger cis women are, especially cis white women, are very much the main demographic that's been represented for so long that people forget that other people can practice. Anyone can practice, regardless of your gender, your race, your sexual orientation, your ethnicity, your nationality, whatever it is. Anyone can practice. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will link this video down below. I'm not showing the whole video here, but you guys can watch the full video on Skylife's channel. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I love you all. Blessed be. Thank you for watching. Bye.